Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Nitch. I'm back at school. I have a better setup here, audio setup. But I wanted to go over the personal response essay with you and to show you that the remaining assignments are preparing you to do the part of this assignment. So you're moving away in your textbook from chapters 1, 2, and 3, which you know your textbook. Those are organized under I say. And so we've been working on the I say part of they say, I say. I'm sorry. To be clear, we've been working on the they say part of they say, I say. We've been working on summarizing what other people say. And that means in this class, we've been spending the last 6 weeks working on summarizing what Michael Pollan has to say. So you just turned in summaries. Those will be finally graded tomorrow. You peer reviewed each other. But now you're starting to think about what I say, what you have to say back to Michael Pollan. And that is because you're going to turn in an actual essay to me on Wednesday before break, where you now present what Michael Pollan says that they say, and then you argue in your thesis and in the body of your paper what you think about what Michael Pollan has said. Do you agree with him? Do you disagree with him? Or do you do both? So the next series of assignments are going to walk you through how you now shape, craft, develop your I say. And that's what chapter 4 is all about. That's what chapter 4 is all about. But I just want to lay the groundwork for what is going to happen in the personal response essay. So you're going to write, that sounds like a lot, but it really isn't. It's about a, 4-page essay that agrees or disagrees with Michael Pollan's argument. Your evidence has to be from your life. So it could be your life, it could be your friend's life, it could be your cousin's life, it could be your mother's life. That's where your evidence is coming from. So it's not, your evidence isn't coming from the internet. Your evidence isn't coming from Michael Pollan's argument. Your evidence isn't coming from some other article or book that you've read about diet. Your evidence is coming from your life. This is often the easiest source of evidence for most of us because we think about our lives a lot. And if you think about the discussion board, all of these responses are asking you to think about your own life. If you go back to the very first one, I asked you, what is your diet like? Do you follow Pollan's rules? Do you not follow Pollan's rules? And then I asked you to think about, and this could have been about yourself, people who can't, who would find it difficult to follow Pollan's rules for different reasons. And if that may be you, or it may be someone you know, right? So this post could have been personal too. This was your personal ideas about processed food. And then this last one yesterday was about you now really trying to about nutritionalism, for example. So Michael Pollan rejecting what most doctors tell us, what most of us think is right for us in terms of eating, right? Michael Pollan doesn't have any problem with people eating lots of fat. Most doctors do. A lot of people do because they were raised in a culture that's fat phobic. We're afraid of fat and foods. Michael Pollan isn't, right, afraid of that. Michael Pollan doesn't think people should avoid sugar either. Michael Pollan believes people should avoid things that are processed, but those things that are processed could have natural sugars in them, or honey, or raw sugar. Those unprocessed foods could be full of fat, right? And Michael Pollan thinks that they're just better for you than something that's fat-free or that's something that's sugar-free. So nutritionalism is what most of us believe, even though we think we agree with Pollan. If we agree with nutritionalism, this idea that if we eat one nutrient, then we'll be okay. Or if we avoid one nutrient, like fat, we'll be okay. Michael Pollan says that's wrong. So that can be a place where you may still want to disagree with him. That can be a place where you want to agree with him, but you need stories, you need evidence. So the personal stories in this discussion board are going to show you the places where you can connect to Michael Pollan's argument. So maybe for you, personally, I can talk about myself. I'm a professor. I took on a new job in my department, which has created a lot more work for me. And I had a baby almost 2 years ago. So I'm much busier than I used to be. And I used to make a lot of food from scratch because when I was a graduate student, I was very, very poor, and it was just cheaper to make your own bread than to buy it. It was just cheaper to make a lot of stuff. And so I just did that. But now it's much harder for me to find time to make things from scratch like I used to. So I may agree with Michael Pollan that making things from scratch is good for you, but I may challenge him to say, we don't really live in a world where everybody has that kind of time. And I could tell the story of how I lost the time to prepare meals for myself and for my family. So that means I may ignore nutritionalism because maybe I don't have a story about that. Or I may want to just focus on processed food because maybe I have a lot of stories about that. Maybe I want to focus just on his dietary rules. And maybe I have stories that support his rules, and maybe I have stories that challenge his rules. So this discussion board post that you just did, I'm going to comment on that tomorrow or Saturday. It's also really important because it's showing you the evidence that you have to engage with certain ideas in Pollan's summary. You cannot engage with everything he talks about. So you shouldn't try, but you can engage with the ideas that you have some evidence that's related to those ideas. So if a lot of your personal stories are about processed food, that's what your response is going to be about. And let your stories determine whether you agree or disagree with him. Even if you want to agree, but your life doesn't let you agree, feel free to disagree with him or to say, I'd like to agree, but in reality, I think he misses too many things about how busy and complicated people's lives are, especially people who have to work outside of the home. So I'm going to put up a longer presentation about what personal response looks like. Once we get closer to the assignment, I'll post that video when you're workshopping, and that's going to start happening next week. So know that. But I just want you to understand you're writing this. You're finally doing they say, I say together. You're doing it all. For weeks, I've told you, no, don't tell me what you think. Don't tell me your I say, just Michael Pollan, just the they say part of this class. What is he saying? Let's get the argument down. Let's learn how to summarize. Let's learn how to put things in our own words. Let's learn how to read better, right? And that can take a long time because most of us don't read very carefully. You've read carefully. You understand his argument. I get to say what you think about it. Right? So this first round of true essay writing, all the evidence comes from your own life. Again, it could be like a friend or a family member, but it needs to be personal, not statistical, not watching a documentary and bringing in facts from the documentary. It needs to be personal. Show you the workshopping work that's coming up. Well, before I say that, you have a quiz over chapter 4 this Saturday. Chapter 4 is really important because it just really explains what they say is again. It reminds you, explains what I say is, explains these, it gives you these awesome templates, which I'm really going to encourage you to use, which makes sure your thesis focuses on what you have to say, but also includes what Michael Pollan has to say. So these templates are great because they force students to organize their papers along the they say, I say format. So you'll have that quiz. And then you're going to do a journal and you're going to be doing some workshopping. So let's look at the journal. So again, you're thinking now about I say, how you're responding to Pollan, and where you agree or disagree with him. So you're going to make a list you're just thinking about your personal life for a while. You're going to make a list of personal examples for agreeing or disagreeing with Michael Pollan's argument, whichever you think is easier based on your own life. And you can build on what you did in discussion board 4. Then you're going to try to write an introduction and a thesis for the first response essay, for this essay that's due on the 15th, by completing this list of tasks. You're going to use one of those thesis templates from chapter 4, whichever one you want, and you can play around with the words so that it makes sense. And then you're going to post this list in this paragraph to the discussion board. So here's an example of what the introduction should look like. Please note, it's not about Michael Pollan. It's about a different article about food. So I'm going to show you how each part is represented. So our choices in diet reveal a lot about us, from our political views to our class positions to our cultural backgrounds, or do they? I'm giving you that context about the element in Pollan's argument you're going to summarize and respond to. So there's my context. Now, this should look familiar. This is a summary. You just did it. Most of you really, I know from your workshops, you got it. A couple of you, you're still working on it. Don't worry. It can take a little while to get used to, but you know already this highlighted area is a summary of this person, Mary Maxfield's argument called Food is Thought. Sorry for the typo, not through, but food is thought, resisting the moralization of eating. It's a focus summary. So you got to trust me on that because you don't know that reading, but I do. I don't summarize everything she has to say. I only summarize the ideas she has to say that I'm going to talk back to. And then I give my thesis. I feel that people should trust themselves and take responsibility for their eating practices because that philosophy has served my family well. So I took a template from chapter 4, a thesis template, and I played around with the language, but that template allowed me to have agreement. I agree. It allowed me to have a they say, and it allowed me to have a reason for my I say. So that's why I liked that one. So this is the journal. Try it out. It feels weird. It can be hard, but try it out. I will give you lots of feedback on it. And then you're going to start workshopping 2. So the workshopping is on the 8th. And again, this is asking you to really list a week from yesterday. I want you to list the ideas and the evidence that you have for the essay you're constructing. To do that, you will construct a simple outline. Here's what it should look like. Give me your thesis using one of the templates. List 4 to 5 reasons why you agree or disagree. Be specific. Pollan argues that the environment is damaged by the Western diet, and I have to agree with him on this point. Right? That's a very specific reason, and it's clearly got a they say in it and an I say in it. You want the they say and I say in your thesis, and then smaller they say, I says in your topic sentences. And then for every reason, describe a brief story of your life. And then if you want to give me permission to use your outline, please just indicate that because I want to be able for people to work with an outline from class in the next workshopping assignment. So all you're really doing over the next week is you're thinking about I say, but you're thinking about I say that's grounded in your personal life. So you want to agree or disagree with Pollan, and you're practicing that on the discussion board, practicing that, doing all that practice so you can write a personal response essay. You're building the body of this essay in most of these activities, with the exception of the one journal that asks you to write an introduction. The other assignments are asking you to put together the personal evidence that you have and to make sure you can connect it to an idea that Pollan has and to say, this personal evidence allows me to agree or disagree with him. I know this is all new, so be patient with yourself. Be ready for lots of feedback from me. I will post, because some of this stuff is happening in the journals and you can't see each other's journals, I will post really strong journal examples so that everybody can see them. Or if there's just everybody's struggling, then I'll make a new video. So don't worry about this being new and hard. It certainly is, but I'm going to support you. And then if it's still really hard, I can move this to be due after spring break. So again, I'm gonna support you guys as much as I can in this. Sometimes people freak out at this point in the class when they actually have to write an essay, but I want you to stick with me, stick with this. I know you can do it, and I'm gonna do everything I can to help you be successful. So that's the week through the lens of this assignment, through the lens of the personal response to Michael Pollan. And the directions aren't terribly long because I didn't want to overwhelm you, and because you're basically building your essay over the next. So as always, there will be more videos though, really digging more deeply into how you're going to put these body paragraphs together with your personal evidence, how you're going to make sure you have a they say, I say in your thesis, a they say, I say in your topic sentences. I promise that will all be presented to you. I just don't want to overwhelm you this week. Try on these activities. Next week, know that there's going to be more video instruction and more feedback from me. And as always, let me know when something's unclear. Since I don't see your faces, I don't know. So you got to shout out. Give me a shout out through email. Say, I don't know what's going on, or I need more time, or something like that. And I will do my best to work with you. So thanks for watching, and keep on working.